we want to see a team that develops, that can run the operation, that they themselves develop and become fantastic managers. Running the business, understanding the financials and one thing and another, and that allows us to go off and do other things that promote the business or bring us further opportunities, be it one-off events or who knows. But yeah, I mean that for us is where it is really about the team.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Burnt Chef Journal, hosted by myself, Chris Hall, the founder of the Burnt Chef Project. This week we're joined by Stuart Collins, who's the owner of Docket No.33, based in Shropshire. He talks to us about his journey through hospitality and how he found his way into the hospitality industry as a chef. Having worked for the likes of Gordon Ramsay, Michael Caines and Gary Rhodes, he's certainly been in a lot of different environments and had the fortune to travel all around the world with his career. So he talks to us about the things that he's learned throughout his journey and also why hospitality should be deemed as the profession of choice. I appreciate it's been a little while since our last episode. Things have been quite busy. We're launching the Leadership and Mental Health Diploma, as well as training multiple teams in mental health awareness and doing what we can to support the industry at this moment in time. So thanks for bearing with us. Normal service will be resumed and our fortnightly episodes will keep going until certainly the end of the year, but we have many, many more to share with you. So thanks again, and let's crack on with this week's episode.
On the surface, we at Lamb Weston are a leading global frozen potato product provider, but hospitality is in our roots. We are helping to chip away the stigma of mental health in the industry and truly believe in well-being through potatoes, which is why we are in full support of the Burnt Chef Project. If you want to find out more about how we provide well-being through the humble potato, or try a free sample of our award-winning products, such as our proper British chips, the Dukes, follow us on Instagram at Lamb Weston UK.
So I'm joined here today by Stuart. Hi Stuart, how's it going?
Hi Chris, really well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Busy week, but yeah, cannot complain. So whereabouts are you at this moment in time?
So I just nipped home from the restaurant to have this chat with you. So yeah, just taking an hour out, left the team to it. So yeah.
I see you've got a few bottles of is it Dom Perignon on the shelf behind you there? A good range.
Yeah, it's that's the sort of out of the reach of our small child. Yeah, so for the celebratory times.
Good. I mean, it's been a bit of a crazy 12 months. How have you found it?
Yeah, challenging, of course, as many in hospitality. It's funny. We went into the pandemic. We had the restaurant and we had a wine bar. We unfortunately lost the wine bar through the time. But then with the restaurant, our sort of docket at home, our at-home meals, that took off and it was incredible. Really took off to the point that we're still doing it. It's now become an additional string to the bow that we offer through the restaurant. And I think we every week we change the menu. And I think we're on to week 65 or something, which is superb. So yeah, a bit of a bittersweet sort of thing going on there. Tough to lose a business and the people that were within it. That was obviously the hardest thing, but equally it's actually strengthened our business in the restaurant, which means we can build a bigger and better team than we ever had. So it's sort of, it's a balance, but it's balanced out nicely.
It's tricky, isn't it? Often enough, we, especially as business owners, you tend to think, well, I've got to, what's next? What else can I build? And how many more, plates can I get spinning? But as a result of that, what we inadvertently do, and this isn't intentional at all, is just perhaps our attention split. And so it's interesting to hear that it's sort of now it's been refocused again. You're able to look at processes and your current team and go harder on and stronger on that. Hey.
Yeah, very much. It's I think you're right. I think that the pandemic really made everyone stop and think, we all get on this crazy treadmill and we want more and we do more and everything's bigger and better and faster. And, and I think that's human nature. We sort of have that drive inside us, but I think it's suddenly brought home that actually it's all quite fragile. And especially in the case of hospitality, it can be gone very quickly. So, for us, we really took stock of it and, we're really enjoying that sort of rebuilding of the current business. Delighted to be able to take on even more employees than we've ever had, more team members, which is fantastic, and almost do it better than we'd done before. We've learned a lot in the 4 years we've been there, and it's almost like a semi-new start. It's like a bit of a refresh on a few of the things we do, and as you say, the systems and procedures, and that's the exciting thing. It's lovely, as you say, as a business owner, as an employer, to be able to have a much nicer working environment, sort of even from the get-go, from the onboarding of people joining the team. It's just a lot more professional, if you like, but a lot more polished, and that's lovely. It feels great to have that evolve within our own business.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's almost like that shared circuit breaker that we needed in order to, hospitality is fucking amazing at being able to pivot on a dime and being able to suddenly deal with problems right in front of our face. But then also at the same time, and to use it, in a kitchen analogy, it's like having a fire constantly behind you that you're running away from, and you're never really going to get a time to stop and actually go, why is the fire chasing us for, and what can we do to actually put it out and save running for a little bit? So it's sounding like that epiphany has happened over the course of the COVID, hey?
Absolutely. We spent, so my wife, Frances, she, we run the restaurant together. Fran runs the front and is definitely the more integral part to the business. And, we spent a lot of time during COVID sort of, walking around and stuff and really talking through the way we ran the business and what was great and what was not. And, looking at things that perhaps we hadn't got quite right. Equally really enjoying that, as I say, that growth. And I think a lot of smaller businesses, you go through that, and there's nothing wrong with that progression as long as it's moving forwards. It's absolutely cool. We just wanted to make sure when we reopened, it was better than ever. We're moving forwards and really pushing forwards for whatever might come next. Who knows?
Exactly. So, Stuart, for those who aren't familiar with you from perhaps things like Great British Menu, just explain to the listeners exactly sort of who you are and what brought you into hospitality as well.
So I started out in my little village where I grew up in Staffordshire, working in a butcher shop, really humble, sort of washing up on a Saturday initially, and then sort of after school, a couple of hours every day. And they did some outside catering, and of course they sort of supplied a few local pubs. And after I'd been with the butchers, a couple of years, I moved over to one of the pubs that we supplied, and I must have been sort of, just 16, sort of after school, whatever. And there was a chef there, and I remember him talking to me about Michelin stars and this sort of big wide world of, restaurants and fantastic chefs and all of these things that, and of course, this is showing my age now, but was back pre-social media and, Instagram and stuff. So it was this big sort of unknown, and I remember almost being totally baffled by it, no idea. And he said, right, off you go to sort of Birmingham College, go and do an open day and see what you think of it. So I went, loved the idea of the college. School had never really been my thing. So it was nice to get to college, and it was exciting and it was cool, and, absolutely loved being there. And then I was really fortunate to get onto the culinary team. And then when they did the sort of stage, the work placements, the culinary team sort of got sent down to London to almost the better establishments. And I was really fortunate to get a month, I forget if it was a month or 6 weeks with Gary Rhodes at Rhodes in the City. And that was the real sort of big sort of eye-opener of, very London-orientated, super busy restaurant. And I don't know, I mean, that was it. If ever there was a fire already sort of going, that just really lit it up for me. And yeah, really fortunate. Went back to college, finished my studies, then got an opportunity with Michael Caines down at Gidley Park to go and do some work experience there. And then really fortunate, Michael offered me a job when I'd finished my studies to go and work there. Spent 4.5 years there. Incredible kitchen, incredible discipline, learning recipes and working with the seasons, very ingredient led, technical food, obviously 2 Michelin star. And again, it was brilliant. We all sort of lived in, it was a real close knit team, a real family orientation. I think in the years I was there, I don't think the team changed much. I seem to recall 6 or 7 of us that we were there all the time. So it really became this family unit. And then from there, I moved up to Gordon Ramsay Hospital Road, did about a year there, and then transitioned across to New York as part of the opening team when Gordon opened at the London in New York City. So started off in restaurant Gordon Ramsay there, and then moved across to run Maze. So it was, massive kitchen. We sort of had 2 big cooking suites and the pastry was in the middle. And then, moved across to run Maze for a couple of years as well. And then coming sort of full circle, Michael Caines was obviously with the Abode Hotel Group, and he was just about to open Abode Chester. So asked if I wanted to come back and sort of head up the team there. So I came back to the UK, did a couple of years with Michael in Chester, and then an opportunity came up to go to the Middle East, over to Qatar. So I moved out there for 5 years to, it was Qatar Foundation. So they were doing some amazing hospitality projects, sort of 3 in-house brands. We also partnered up with Guy Savoy and opened a restaurant with him. And that was brilliant. 5 years out there, it's just a whole different world. And then, we in 2017, we came back to the UK, and Fran and I decided we wanted to open our own restaurant and put all of those things that we'd learned from various different places into good practice. And so we set about opening Docket Restaurant and in Whitchurch in Shropshire. So, and then we've been there ever since, 4 years. So it's been wonderful.
That's amazing. I mean, crikey, what a journey as well, hey? That's a lot of big names, a lot of countries that you've travelled, a lot of different environments as well. I mean, is there any particular one that stands out the most to you? Anyone that you think, that really set me off my trajectory?
I think they all sort of, there's something that genuinely I can take from each and every one of them. I think starting out sort of in the kitchen at Gidley, being in the UK, primarily surrounded by British chefs, that was a fantastic sort of foothold into the industry. And I think it was brilliant. It was the right pace for me. It was the right sort of technical level. It was just the right, perfect environment for me. And then, but moving on to Gordon's, then it sort of, the pace sort of increased a little bit, and moving up into London, it was sort of different environment, and that in itself was fantastic. And then moving across to New York, I remember, I forget the number of chefs now, but we're talking, I don't know, in excess of 100 across both restaurants and pastry, and every single chef had worked in Michelin star restaurant. So there was like a million egos kicking around in the kitchen. And, it was a real sort of, that first couple of weeks, it was a very much sort of leveling out the pecking order of, everybody. You're also in New York, and it's a whole different dining scene. The ingredients are totally different. The availability is different. The expectation was different. So that was superb. And then, coming back to the UK and heading up the team for the first time, you learn a lot about yourself and the team and management. So there's loads of stuff to take from that. And then, of course, going out to the Middle East, I mean, I could spend hours talking to you about it. There's so many things from, the number of nationalities we had in the team and managing that, and with a team that 50% didn't really speak English, so trying to explain a cucumber and a courgette is incredibly problematic, and and it's all these things, but equally you're also blessed with budgets like you've never seen, and so the experience there is huge. I mean, and then of course, doing our own thing, that is probably the most rewarding thing we've ever done. It's also probably one of the most humble things in terms of, we were looking at some pictures the other day when we first opened a restaurant, and it's just got better and better. But it's now it's very personal. So there's so much, and really, I when I look at it as a career, it's fantastic, and there is so much to take from every opportunity, because they've been quite different, very sort of diverse. So a lot to take from it.
I have so many questions off the back of that, and I'm not sure we're going to get time to go through them all, because I don't even know where to begin. I mean, first and foremost, okay, so you're working in America, surrounded by Michelin star experienced chefs, hundreds, predominantly male back then, I assume, or was there an even split?
Primarily male. We definitely there was females in the team, probably 20%. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously things have changed, and I'd like to say that they've changed a lot since then. But what must that have been like? Because a lot of these guys, and yourself included, have all come from very fast-paced, high-stress environments, whereby we're talking old school teachings, right? We're talking, no leadership qualifications or training going on here. Like, how on earth do you establish a pecking order, and what did that look like within an environment like that?
I think it was, I think it's almost, it was one of those situations where it's almost quite self-policing, if you know what I mean. Amongst the team, it sort of irons itself out, and not necessarily too much from the top. It was, there were a few, when we first went out, there was an opening team like myself. Again, I forget the exact number, but various people had come from the different restaurants in London, and we went out as an opening team, and then obviously there was a lot of like local hirers, such people that were currently working in America. So there was a natural people that would already work for Gordon, and then you got all these amazing chefs coming on board as well. So it was very much self-policing, and I think in a pretty short time it sort of works itself out. And then to be honest, I think then there's a fantastic sort of gelling of the team, and there was a very much an understanding that you're surrounded by fantastic chefs, and yes, there's a pecking order, and you sort of you're all vying for position as such, but equally there's an awful lot you can learn from everybody, because there was nobody in that team that hadn't got incredible experience. And the one big thing for me of working for fantastic chefs is yes, working for those fantastic chefs, but the people that are attracted to working in those teams are they're your sort of people that you work with on a daily basis, and they're the people that now I stay friends with, and I look up to in terms of when I look at what's going on in the industry. I look at the chefs I worked with when we were at Gordon's, and when we were with Michael Caines and stuff, and I still look at what all of these guys are doing, because they're the people that make it happen on a daily basis. So but you're surrounded by these incredible people, and New York was it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
And in terms of being away from home for the first time as well, I've just come off of a call with a chap who runs the PM Trust in London at Westminster College, and it provides, and it has done for many, many years, provided sort of a refuge for certainly younger chefs who have come into the industry for the first time. I know Marcus Waring was there, and a few others back along. And what was it like? Because for many people at the age of 16, 17, 18, leaving home for the first time, and not just working away from home, but working in another country as well. How was that for you? Did you adjust fairly quickly, or were there some sort of moments where you weren't sure?
I always laugh about this, because I was you literally, I took 2 suitcases and about $250, and I booked my ticket, and I flew into New Jersey because I didn't really know the difference. So I ended up in the wrong state initially, and then had to spend like $50 or whatever getting across the river into New York. And you start on these lessons, and there was support there, of course, with the company, but you suddenly realise you're in, it's that sort of thing. You're big enough and old enough to get a job, and you sign up to these things, and suddenly you have to stand on your own 2 feet. But then that's exciting. So then you start thinking about where you can live, and you sort of start building your little life over in New York, and and then and you embrace it, I suppose. It's also quite easy. You do literally just get on a plane and you move across, and it was no difference when we moved to Qatar sort of 10 years later. It was the same thing. You get on a plane and then you get there, and then that's the excitement of reestablishing your life and whatever, and that's part of the adventure for me. And something I absolutely loved. And you make mistakes and whatever, and you end up moving flat once or twice because you've picked the wrong place or whatever, but that's cool. And but that's part of the fun.
Yeah. And you do that over in the UK or wherever you are in the world. You'll always pick a place that might seem all right and move in and realize actually quite quickly it's not at all it's cracked up to be. But you've touched upon quite an important subject of, as if we're trying to encourage people to come into this profession and deem it as a profession of choice, often enough we don't talk about the opportunities to be able to relocate your entire life to a completely different either country or culture, and use the skills that you've honed at college or during your professional career to create something for yourself that could be tremendously different and exciting. And I think that's something that we need to talk more about, especially with the younger generation.
Yeah, as I say, I did okay at school, and I got an MVQ. I forget now. I think it was 1 and 2. Maybe I got 3, and that's all the higher qualifications I've got. But it's sort of put me in good stead, and I've still managed to sort of travel the world and work with some amazing people and be in some incredible restaurants. And and it's a funny one. Sort of again, I appreciate times are changing, and perhaps these days, you need certain qualifications, and I totally understand that, and sort of embrace that idea as well. But it is a fine line between sort of making people think that education has to be done. There's still a big amount, I believe, in our industry of coming in and cracking on and honing your craft and learning and really excelling at the job and really enjoying it. And you don't have to be a sort of A-star academic to succeed. So long as you come in and you love what you do and all the things that you need sort of to complete the job, you can still do incredibly well.
It's that thing that it keeps coming back into conversations, which is will versus skill, especially now more than ever. It's like, have you been to catering college? Have you honed your hosting skills or your, knife skills? Chances are possibly nowadays not, but they're attracted to hospitality like all of us were back, at some stage in our careers. And it's about whether or not people not necessarily have the skill set, but have the will and the aptitude to want to learn and to listen and to be taught in the right sort of environment so that they can become a great chef. And there are many people out there who don't have any formal qualifications and still, got very successful businesses and Michelin stars or TV appearances or whatever it might be. So I think there's a strong case for catering colleges, and we really need to ramp up that feed through from public school now and secondary school into colleges. But I also think that people shouldn't be dissuaded from trying their hand at it if they want to, and if they can find the right environment, then the possibilities are limitless, really.
Yeah, and I think what you just said there, the right environment is key. And every time we sort of look at taking on a new member of the team in the restaurant, we always say, look, come and do a trial shift. And it's as much about you looking at what we do and enjoying it and thinking you can fit in and feeling that you can become part of that team, as much as us looking at you and seeing if we think you can, because the industry is so diverse in many, 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 many ways. You can still be in hospitality. You don't have to be sort of aspiring to work in a 3 Michelin star. There's still, whether it's in the casual dining sector or sort of, the service sector or whatever, it's so diverse, but there is something there for everybody. I'm not particularly great at sort of massive numbers and high volume. It doesn't really excite me, but that's absolutely cool. There are people that don't enjoy doing sort of small dining and real sort of the finer detail. So, that's brilliant. But you've got to find your place in the industry, because if just because you don't like it in one restaurant, it doesn't mean that you're not sort of made to work in the industry, or that you can't fit in it. It's really important to find where you can fit. So yeah, we as I say, we always sit down with anyone that's done a trial shift afterwards, and it's great if we've had one or two that said, it's not for me. I sort of want something that's a bit faster paced, or a bit more volume, or slightly less detailed, or whatever. And that's absolutely brilliant. I think actually being able to make that decision very early on is super important, because otherwise you get an employee that comes on board and then it doesn't quite work, and then it's not a hugely positive and forward sort of situation to be in.
100%. 100%. And something that we talk about during our training sessions with teams is that at this moment in time, we feel there's some immense amount of pressure to be able to fill in people. Visitor numbers haven't really quietened down after summer like we were expecting. In fact, many people I speak to are still doing 110% of what the expected trade is. But obviously there are a lot less people involved in the industry now due to things like over here in the UK, Brexit. But obviously COVID has also I wouldn't say encouraged, but has given people other opportunities outside of the industry, perhaps to work and gain that work-life balance. But one thing I always try and encourage people to do is at that first initial touch, at that interview stage, it's not a case of, do you have two hands or one hand, or are you able to get involved and speak to customers, or to work behind a pass or a section. Actually, it's about being able to understand what that individual wants from their work career, and whether or not it fits for both of you, because it's an arrangement. It has to be mutually beneficial. And I think for far too long, we've ended up just going, yeah, we'll take you on, and that person not really finding out what the job's about. And then actually then 3 months down the line going, I don't want to, or perhaps even they don't have the right skill set and they're being put under a tremendous amount of pressure, which then impacts their own well-being. And I think that's, you've hit upon quite an important first step that costs no money, no investment at all, other than just a bit of time.
Yeah, and as you say, it's that foundation of the team, and if you've got one individual, or even worse, if you've got a number of individuals coming in, and like you say, it's either the wrong position within your organisation, or it's entirely the wrong organisation. It's not a conducive environment, is it? And it becomes very difficult. And I remember listening to one of your podcasts before, actually, and the conversation was about, it's almost, do you take on people just to fill that position, and are you better off with it, or is it better off to not have somebody? And it's a real tussle, isn't it? And it's so hard, because the business keeps evolving, and as you say, the guests are coming through the door, and you do need people on your team to help you execute what's got to be done. But getting the right person in the right position takes time, and nurturing and development. It's a tough one, isn't it?
Definitely, and I'm sure you've experienced both sides of the coin, and probably working environments where you've just been thrown in at the deep end, and you've had to adapt, and other environments where you've been taken under the wing and taught, and your resilience built up. But what are the key things that you'll notice from a business owner's point of view at this moment in time? What are people looking for when they come to you looking for a position or looking for work?
I think we're really fortunate. We we have a fantastic sort of younger team that work with us. We sort of have this every 2 years. Unfortunately, we get this sort of cycle of turnover because they're basically sort of post-school, pre-uni kids. So we call them kids. Forgive me, they're much younger than me. But and so we get them sort of 2 years, and the team we have now are absolutely the sort of probably the best team we've ever had. But I think there's a couple of reasons for that. And as you say, post lockdown, business was so busy. And I think actually by being consistently busy, or by being consistent, is the important thing. The team know exactly where they stand, and we've sort of not had this we've never had this situation within our business. Which like I explained, we've been building the business, and there's been nights where we've been incredibly quiet, and it's all a bit sort of up and down. And 1 minute they're doing sort of 2 jobs merged into one, and then and you pulled from pillar to post. And now we've got this wonderful routine in the restaurant where we have the 3 front of house roles, and we rotate it to keep them sort of inspired and motivated. But it's consistent every single day. The same amount of covers, the same amount of this, and that helps in turn to then motivate the team. And they definitely, we all know sort of happier work environments and controlled. A little bit of pressure, I believe, is kind of healthy. It keeps those wheels turning, and that's fine, but not overbearing. And it really is that. And, the team now, they absolutely love it when they get the positive feedback from guests. That really motivates them. They love it. And they sort of, we sort of really help to make sure they know it. Any online reviews and stuff, we've got a little WhatsApp group with the team, and we make sure they get it. They get to see all of it. If we get any email or whatever, we'll copy and paste it onto the chat. And so they will see everything. And that, of course, is the monetary side, but actually it's feeling their worth, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to. That's what really, we believe, really motivates the team at the minute. It's, the financial side of it. Yes, of course, we all need to make money, but yeah, really feeling the worth, really making the difference. And, if one of the front of house guys, if they get, mentioned in a review or something, they absolutely love it. It's brilliant. It's, it's priceless. So yeah, it's given them the platform and the confidence to do what they do. And then equally, sharing the feedback that we get so that they see that full picture. Equally, if there's any negatives, we're the first to sort of discuss it with them, and not in a critical manner, but look, guys, this has not gone quite right. What can we learn from it? Where did we go wrong as a team? It's not the blame culture. It's not singling one person out. It's where did we get it wrong? How can we prevent it from happening again? And learning from it. So it's, trying to keep everything positive, not sugarcoating it. It is a business, and we always say it to them, it's got to be on point. People come to the restaurant and they spend good money with us, and we have a responsibility to give them a fantastic experience. And if we do get it wrong, we must learn from it.
It leads me on to something else, actually. What have your reviews been like recently? Have they changed post-pandemic? I'm getting a sense that for others, it's become slightly more negative, more critical than perhaps it was pre.
Yeah, there's certainly a little bit more nitpicking. It's I'm very much, people are a little bit more critical of. I already know how. I can't really put my finger on the button, but it's just the finer points. They're really, really getting into it. But again, look, that keeps us on our toes, and it means that we look at everything a lot more frequently and a lot more in detail, and we really, really try. More so than ever, you look at everything all the time. But yeah, it's you get the odd one that is questionable.
You can't please everyone, and it's there seems to be this rising. I don't like the term entitlement. It's quite crass, I think, but there is definitely this. I think because irrespective of what sector you work in, we've all been through this shared experience. This this where you focus on yourself, on your security, on your family, and as a result, everyone's come out and gone, well, my views are slightly more elevated than they were before, and I believe that perhaps my views are more important than my fellow man or woman's, and it's curious, and I wonder at what stage it will level out. If it will level out, I can't imagine this is just the trajectory of the nation and the world moving forward.
I think as well, though, I mean, we all look at review sites and one thing and another, and I think as much as the more people are writing and the more people are reading, the more people read between the lines. So whereas before, you'd see it and there'd be one or two negative comments and you'd sort of rule it out as an option. Now you look at it and say, well, okay, there's, whatever, one or two negative comments, but there's 100 positives. So you know what? Like you said before, you can't please everybody. So yeah, in actual fact, I think a lot of the review sites, the sort of the greater number of reviews, I don't know. I think people that read them as well, it almost becomes not irrelevant, but it's, I don't know. Because the stuff that's written as well is trivial.
Yeah. Yeah, my water was 0.5 of a degree colder than I actually wanted it, and I'm most upset. But it's like the news now. I treat reviews literally. If I'm buying anything or if I'm visiting a restaurant, I won't look at the reviews because one thing that happened on one day could be completely different on another. So I really don't try and put too much weight to that. But two, I just look, if it's got 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, whatever it might be, I need it. Like I need it. The whole point I'm looking at this now is to go, I'm either hungry, thirsty, I want to buy dog food from Amazon, whatever it might be. I need a product, so I'm going to buy it. If I judge it then and say, well, actually, it wasn't what I expected, there's my opportunity as a person to say, excuse me, that's not what I expected, or to go, all right, do you know what? I misjudge, and now I know when I can go there, or when I can't, or when I can buy that product. And it's just, it's just a crazy old cycle that we seem to be in at the moment. Ban the news, ban reviews. Let's not hold business owners accountable for your misunderstood standards. But moving on, obviously you've worked, as we've touched upon a number of times now, you've worked in some quite high pressured environments. Now, you said it's fantastic and it's a great experience, but it can't have always been, all roses. I mean, what's the subject of mental health meant to you over your career, and how have you engaged with it, either personally or with someone that you know?
I think it's a tough one, isn't it? It's certainly come to the forefront more recently, certainly as an open discussion. And I think, and again, you touched on it before about, especially as you progress, and either as I've progressed up into management or those that sort of managed me before as such, was there any training as such? And I think that is key, isn't it? In today's world, is that realization that, just because you can cook well doesn't mean you can manage a team. And I know I've made mistakes, and you learn from it. And, and as I say, every day we just try to be better and better than the day before. And you learn from various things, and equally times have changed. So sort of things that may have been more appropriate or otherwise in times gone by, the world's moving forwards. So yeah, it's important that, as long as you do move forwards, and you sort of recognize what is right today, what is right now, what is right for, the situation. I think that's really important. You hear it quite often, sort of being a product of your environment. And that's really hard because it's not an excuse, but it's also the truth. And, as I say, you learn from that, and when you move forwards, but it's, things like this didn't exist 20 years ago. So you believe, what you've shown and what you see is the way it is. And it is only through more open conversation and stuff that we can all move forward. You see people struggle with it, different pressures and personal situations going on outside of work. And I think more so than ever now there is a support network, and there's understanding for it. Yeah, it can be difficult, can't it, at times?
What would you have liked to have seen during your career? What one thing, what one difference would you have liked to have seen during your roles in the past that perhaps would have made the experience just that, take it up just a notch in terms of overall health and well-being?
I think it's funny because I've always had this sort of, when you work for somebody else, I've always had this fear of whoever it is coming in and almost saying you're not working hard enough or you're not putting enough effort in, and you've almost let them down. And that was no different when you were a commie and you sort of let your chef de partie down, or when you're the exec chef and you've let the owner down. I mean, it's that same pressure. Now, as the owner, we try to coach the senior team in terms of, again, it's not that blame culture. It's that, how can we, look, that ball got dropped, but let's talk it through. Let's see how that happened. And again, I think, time's gone by. It's just been sort of like, you're the top of the tree. So you get blamed for it, irrespective of the million things that can affect the outcome of a plate of food, whether it's the supply chain or the kitchen porter or the dishwasher or the food itself or the hot plate or the waiter or whatever, the chef, whatever. There's a million, or yourself, whatever. There's a million things. But, and I get it. Part of being higher up the tree, you get accountability, and I appreciate that for sure. But yeah, I think, it's very much was, you're in charge, you've dropped the ball, it's all on you. Which I don't really think is always helpful, especially when that's, like we say, sort of paired with historically lack of training to be a better manager, someone in charge, whatever term you want to put to it. Because then you just, where's the aspiration for that? You basically climb the tree and then you just getting shit left, right, and centre.
Different level. Yeah, and it's a very valid point as well. Like one of the studies we did fairly recently for about 2,500 people showed it was everyone's feeling it. Certainly within hospitality, and it's the middle management that are getting quite a lot of it at the moment, because you've got to manage your P&Ls, plus you've got to manage your team's expectations, and also you've got to manage your own performance whilst all of this is going on. And obviously business owners as well, it's all very much, we talk a lot about what business owners can do for their teams and for the individuals that work within their organizations. But also there's an element of trying to survive during quite a financially restrictive time, and also not being trained in terms of being able to develop a new rota systems or procedures, and always looking back at the things the way things were and going, well, it's always been done like this. Why isn't it working now? And then scratching your head going, like, how can it be any different? And it's quite we need to spare a thought for all sides, because again, we're only human and we're only doing what we've learned or the limit of our knowledge and capabilities to be able to implement changes and create healthier environments. Hey,
I think what you say there about business owners, and ultimately I think that's integral in the whole loop, isn't it? Because the business owner sort of sets the standards and the expectation, and certainly pushes down on the senior management, and then that gets filtered down through the hierarchy. So on one hand, now as a business owner, but previously business owners I've worked for, they obviously set the ball in motion. But it's also, like you say, the flip side of that, and having to keep the lights on and making sure that everyone gets paid, and that is also incredibly tough. And again, it doesn't allow anyone to act or be in a certain way, but that is a huge pressure. There are months and months where myself and my wife, we've gone without being paid, but every single member of the team has been paid. We've never missed a payroll. Of course we haven't. You can't. But also that's the responsibility to take on with a business. And it's not a sob story, but that's, you make your bed, you lie in it. But equally that then brings pressure. It then brings questions like, why the hell are we doing this? Like, we're working 1 million hours a day, whatever. We're not getting paid. All the savings and everything that we'd put into it, and that brings pressure. It's our sole income into our house. And, it then becomes really personal. We've got a small child. I've got a wife that I'm supposed to look after. And, and then you walk in and you've got a commie chef that's like breaking equipment for fun and like chucking produce in the bin and stuff. And you're sort of like, there's my child's next meal, which has gone in the bin. But it becomes really, it becomes very personal. So, at times it's incredibly stressful. And you're absolutely right that all business owners have a responsibility to set that culture and make a better work environment and everything else. But they're also in a really, really difficult spot because they're the people that financially are making it all happen. So, or certainly for the get-go to get it up to speed.
I think you've just touched upon quite an interesting thing that I talk with a lot of management teams about. And I say to them, forget your title. It means fuck all to anyone. What you have to realize is that you're a human being and the person sitting next to you is a human being and another human being. And ultimately, if you're in the same environment with each other for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, whatever it might be, you got to look out for each other as human beings. It's just once you start to realize that the business owner is, you've guessed it, a human being, and then your manager is a human being, and your KP and your waiter and waitress, and everyone's just a human being, and start to think beyond your title and your pecking order, so to speak. Ultimately, the workplace can become a much nicer environment because although, yes, you need to have direction, when you all come at that direction together as a shared entity, all focused on basically making it a nicer place to work and to enjoy coming to work, your mindset's completely changed.
Yeah, there's that sort of, as much as being managed, it's also managing upwards, if that makes sense. Because, it's exactly what you said. Respect, I struggle with that word. I just find it's a bit sort of chucked around a bit. But it is that, exactly what you're saying, understanding that person's, that are above you, what might be going on with them, as much as, we have a responsibility to look after all the team members within our team. Of course we do. I believe as an employee, you sort of have a responsibility to respect your workplace as well and appreciate what you've got and what the equipment, be it, or the team around you, or the facility, or the company that you work with, is just take on board what that is. And, you have a role to play in the sustainability of that. And it's a funny thing because, the less kit that gets broken and the less food that gets wasted and one thing and another, you'll probably find the boss is a lot happier. It's, but it's that round circle, isn't it?
Well, again, what we were saying earlier about being able to be very good at turning on the dime. But actually, when we look at the reasons why we're operating on 2 or 3% net profits, is because, our turnover rates are 100% higher, 200% higher than the national average. And, wastage costs are a massive thing. And I've come from a wholesale background, so I know what it's like to get a phone call from a chef and go, you're fucking rinsing me on this butter and it's costing me 50p more than it should do. And it's like, yeah, but if you don't want to be the one to say, well, if you're throwing it away, or if you're throwing like all of your carrot tops in the bin and not using them for stock, then, it's not always as simple as clear cut as being able to point the finger and blame someone. And it is things like wastage, equipment, about turning the lights off, on and off at the right times, and saving the small pennies here and turnover. And ultimately, the sooner that we can sort of look at those things, provide the healthy cultures, the more profits business owners make, and hopefully the good ones will realize that actually by reinvesting it back into the team means that same team will be there in 10 years' time. And you've got this.
It's funny when we were in when I was in Doha in Qatar, we obviously relied heavily on international recruitment. So, the onboarding cost was, back when I was there, the company had the obligation to fly the employee in and then obviously take care of all costs and one thing or another whilst the employee was in the country. And then at the end of their employment, be it through resignation or termination, you had to pay for them to fly out of the country. So significant cost on the business. And we actually worked out that if we paid an additional month's salary per year as a bonus, we would retain more staff, and it would be cheaper than basically getting 20 new employees every single year. But then more importantly, you get that continuation of employment. So from a consistency in the business, you're not bringing new people in that take time to get trained up and whatever. You've got happier employees that have longer service, so they know the routine. They're more in the mix with the business. And that was a massive, great thing. And, I don't know that we can afford an extra month's salary every year, but we can certainly look at, you realize that sort of incentive for employees is integral to keeping them within your business. And it's that reward, the better the business does. No different to, you see so many senior roles getting bonus schemes, staff retention and food cost and equipment cost, labour cost and blah, blah, blah. But actually, if it's filtered down the levels, I think it might help. Equally, I'm a big believer that when you're a commie, you don't want to be blinded by the business, because you're there to learn your craft. So it's a fine line, but it's also all encompassing, because as a commie, if you're throwing all the carrot tops away, then that's having an impact on everything else. So the sooner you can be aware of it, I think is really important, because all of those pennies really make a difference.
It's the financial acumen. It's perhaps things that you don't necessarily always get taught at college or at school. Our curriculum over here, certainly, and I'm sure it's probably similar in a lot of other countries, doesn't teach you about financial competency within a commercial environment. And we all work in a business. Either we own it, we work in it, or we're just passing through. But ultimately, the better we can understand that, the better we're able to do. And you're right. And I also always talk about being $5,000 or pounds per person for every person that you have to find, recruit, wastage, insurance, uniform, you name it, setting them up on payroll. It's about £5,000 per person. But then if you chuck flights and accommodation and everything else on top of that as well, then it is about actually going, well, hold on, rather than losing all that money because we've lost the individual, we can keep them. But also at the same time is they've got a whole years of experience under their belt. They're able to train and build a better culture. And it's about getting that continuous cycle of people come in, but they never leave. I'd rather people say, I can't get rid of my team. I've tried, I've asked them to leave and they won't leave me. And there are businesses out there, there's restaurants, as I've spoken to, like, I just can't get rid of my team members because they just don't want to leave. And I'm like, great. Can we write a book about this? This sounds awesome. And it almost sounds like complete fallacy in this industry as well, but it does happen and it does exist. And for any college students out there, go work for a business like this. Find one that you don't want to leave because you love it too much.
Yeah.
So what's next for you then? Obviously, you're concentrating on the business. You're saying you're building a bigger team, and you're still doing the takeaway home kits as well, which is, I mean, that's amazing that's still going. A whole 2 operational structures, having to try and run those at the same time. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
I think, we're looking forward to that sort of now building our business. I will forever be hands-on. I'll probably turn into one of those really annoying owners that, you just can't get out of the kitchen. That's always in there, like meddling. But we in the same way that, for years you want to build up the youngsters within your team, the junior roles. I think now we're really looking as well to the senior roles, and getting to a point where the business has got a team that can run it. So we're not not stuck in the business, but, it's not dependent on us on a daily basis. We want to see a team that develops, that can run the operation, that, they themselves develop and become fantastic managers, running the business, understanding the financials of one thing or another. And, that allows us to go off and do other things that promote the business or bring us further opportunities, be it, one-off events or who knows. But yeah, I mean, that for us is where it is, really about the team and the business, and building on the standards of what we do, and refining everything that we do, and really making it the best we can be. We've got our own expectations, and we're not sort of competing against anybody necessarily. We just love what we do, and we just want to build that team to help us achieve it.
Good on you. It's investing in today to make a future for tomorrow, hey, and the people who are going to make that happen for you as well. Stuart, you travelled back in time, right? You found a time machine and it's pinged you back to when you were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at 18 years old, and you've met yourself and you've shaken hands and you've gone, God, what advice can you tell me from the future? What piece of what nugget of information would you give to yourself to say, here we go?
I think the biggest one is probably taking stock of the moment. Sort of, so many good memories of the amazing kitchens and people I've worked with and experiences that they've sort of borne. And I guess it's almost just, if I could have taken an extra breath at each of those steps and really just paid attention to it. And I think, I'm super proud of everything I've done, but I've also, you're on that sort of hamster wheel, and it would have been nice just to sort of take a breath. And I guess that leads to where we are today, though. It's about trying to manage that time, and rather than putting in the big long hours every day and then just being tired, it would be just sort of stop and take a breath and enjoy the moment. I think that's the simplest way of putting it.
Yeah. Mindfulness at work and for your life and where you are in your career progression, which is advice that I'd like to take myself. But again, just keep plowing forward.
It just doesn't stop, does it?
No, it doesn't. And then you realize once you have children as well, that all of a sudden life is, it's not limitless like you thought it was at 17, 18 years old. And it flies you by almost twice as quick, which is something I was always warned about as a kid, but I never believed it. I thought, yeah, whatever.
Yes.
And
it's funny how we're the ones now saying, oh, you should just, exactly, everything that you were told as a youngster, you're now repeating it. But it's true.
Who would have thought it? When we were having these conversations, you're like, oh, you should really pay more attention to this and do that. And we used to go, yeah, I will never be like you. And then mid to late 30s, you're like, yeah, I've just literally turned into my dad.
Yeah, it's happening.
Who luckily never listens to these podcasts, so it's all right. We're on a good roll. But Stuart, thank you very much for your time. If people wanted to find out more about you or even come and visit you, where can they do so?
So we've got a website, docketrestaurant.com, or social media platforms. Docket Restaurant is on there, or my own, Stuart Collins. You can find us on all of them.
Good man. And are you popping up at any events anytime in the next 6 months or so? Are you travelling?
We've got a fantastic event in London with the NSPCC, catching up with a few of the Great British Menu guys down there in December. So that will be at the Guildhall. So that'll be amazing. And then nothing else in the diary. We've got a few smaller events with the restaurant. And then fingers crossed, next year will be full of events. And from early spring. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, hopefully, if you're in London in March, we're going to be at the International Salon Culinaire event at the XL, so that could be a good day out. It'd be good to put a real face, not just a 2D flat screen. You realise that people actually do have proportions rather than, although if you're anything like me, a little bit more rotund than perhaps I was before the pandemic.
No, that'd be brilliant. It'd be good.
Cool. It's been great catching up with you. Thank you ever so much, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Chris. Brilliant to speak to you.
Cheers, mate. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Burnt Chef Journal. If you haven't yet checked out the Burnt Chef Project website, then please head over to www.theburnchefproject.com. You'll find a whole host of resources, free access to our training app, as well as free support services, blog posts, our merchandise store, and also our ambassadors who are there to support you when you need it. Thanks again for joining us this week, and I'll see you again soon.